everyone, I'm Aubrey Berry, and before we really launch into our lesson today, I'd like you all to take a few seconds, close your eyes. With your eyes closed, visualize something that happened in the course of today, from the time that you woke up until the time that you go to sleep. It can be a situation, a conversation, or a feeling. All right, now everyone, open your eyes. Victoria, what did you think about?
My baby.
Your baby. Specifically, something that
He's
happened.
teething. So
He's teething.
Kind of a mess all day.
So the day was rough. Kind of some
yeah.
past experiences that made today challenging.
Long day.
Yeah.
No whiny, complaining, long day.
Christia, what about you?
Well, for me, I thought about my brother all day
Mhm.
because of the suicide awareness
Mhm.
run.
Mhm.
So I feel like he was pushing me to
Mhm.
finish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to cry. Let's go.
Okay. Alana, what about you?
I caught up on laundry today.
Good.
Yep.
That's always a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And Craig, what about you?
I listened to a band play a very specific song today. It was Pink Panther.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So what's interesting but not surprising is that everyone picked something in the past, right? We have things that happened during the day, things we listened to, accomplishments, feelings about past events, and nobody picked something that was occurring right now. Guys, we're all new to this class, but we didn't think about how nervous we felt, what other people were thinking, and that's because mindfulness does not come naturally to any person on this earth. Rather, mindfulness is a skill that you need to be taught and practice to be able to implement it in your daily life to create a better mental health awareness for yourself and also for your clients in session. So when I say the word mindfulness, what comes to your mind? Because for today, we're going to be discussing a few learning objectives. For the course of this lesson, by the end of it, we'll be able to implement mindfulness techniques during therapy sessions based on unique client skills, and we will also invent new and or modify existing mindfulness techniques to create a dynamic set of new counseling skills. So what comes to your mind when we say mindfulness?
Just being aware of what's happening in the moment.
Good. In the moment. So we have that here and now. Anybody else?
Empathetic.
Empathy? In what way?
Just being able to relate or be able to understand where someone's coming from.
That's really good. So being able to put yourself into the emotions that somebody's currently feeling. Anybody else have anything?
I would just say awareness.
Yep. Awareness of your surroundings, awareness of your body, awareness of your emotions. Good. Christia?
I have the same thing, the
Yep.
same thought.
Good, yeah. It's a common thing to think of when we think about mindfulness. Just kind of being aware of the situation, like Victoria said, specifically in the moment. So how are we going to learn mindfulness today? First, we're going to start off with the definition of mindfulness. Next, we're going to move on to practicing 3 specific mindfulness techniques. We're going to learn the steps, and then we're going to implement them during a little role play scenario. Next, I'm going to read you guys some case studies, and we're going to discuss and analyze which mindfulness technique would work best for each specific client need. And finally, we're going to create some new techniques and ideas through a process of uninterrupted writing, where we're really going to apply some creative brainstorming. So what is mindfulness? Like you all said, it's this idea of being present, aware of your surroundings, yourself, and your body in the here and now. Specifically, meditation by the cultivation of a present-oriented, non-judgmental attitude. And when it says non-judgmental attitude, what do you think that's referring to?
Neutral mindset.
A neutral mindset? Good. Or, alternatively, our emotions. Because as human beings, we tend to classify emotions. Oh, these emotions are good, these emotions are bad. Oh, I shouldn't feel angry, that's wrong. Or I should always be happy. When I'm happy, I'm doing good. But emotions are naturally occurring, they're organic. And so we really have no control of them. So there's no classification of good or bad, they just kind of are. Now our reactions to those emotions for sure can be bad. For example, punching someone in the face when you get angry. Not really a healthy way to cope with that. But just feeling that emotion is not a bad thing. However, because we associate being angry, being sad, feeling guilty with something that we shouldn't do, we tend to block it away. Rather, when we're mindful, we can sit with negative emotions and really develop a sense of how they occurred and how we can work through them. how is mindfulness accomplished? Victoria, would you like to read out those 3 steps?
Observing one's experience, how are you feeling at this moment? Oh, that was mine. Focusing on breath, tending to the body and physical sensations.
Exactly. What do you think the link between emotion and your physical body is? It's a tough one.
Can you repeat? Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the
Of
question
course,
again?
yes. What do you think the connection between your emotions and your physical body are when you're thinking about mindfulness? What makes it important to incorporate the 2?
So you don't like misbehave, you know, in a sense, like you
Sure.
think before you act.
Think before you act, that's a really good one. And also emotions can be kind of nebulous, can't they? They're not something tangible. You can't feel it, you can't touch it. And so because of that, it's hard to understand. But when we relate it to how we're feeling in our body, for example, when I feel angry, I feel my shoulders getting tense, I feel my face getting hot. It makes it something that's more concrete, something that we can actually analyze, see how our body reacts to it, and then kind of work through the emotion.
Okay.
There are 3 mindfulness techniques that have been statistically proven to increase mindfulness and therefore bring benefit to someone's general mental health. And those 3 of the most common mindfulness techniques are deep breathing, body scanning, and 5 senses. Leave it to counseling to make something as innate and inherent as breathing difficult and have steps for it, but yet here we are. Step 1 is to empty your body of all of the air. Just kind of completely empty your lungs so you start out from a place of complete neutrality. From there, you move on to step 2, which is inhaling for 5 seconds. This is a slow and considerate, mindful process. So you're not just, okay, done. You know, you really want to think about it, count out the beats of 5. Sometimes, of course, you may have clients with respiratory illnesses or a deviated septum who cannot physically do this. It's not a big deal. You can always reduce it down to 3 counts because pretty much everyone can hold that. Next, step 3 is to hold your breath for 5 seconds. And so you want to do it, 3 seconds. You want to do that right after you inhale. You hold for 3 seconds, then move on to the next step where you exhale for a full 5 seconds. Now this middle step, hold your breath for 3 seconds. It's not something that we naturally do when we breathe. What makes it important during mindful breathing?
You're thinking about it.
You're thinking about it, exactly. You're giving yourself that time, that 3 seconds, where your mind is clear and you can focus on how you're feeling. A lot of times we try to stay really busy, push uncomfortable thoughts and feelings out of our head, but this really creates that space and that time to think about what's in front of you. Can anyone think of one other thing that's common reason to take a breath?
Concentration.
Concentration, very good, very good. Also think about if you have a client who has a panic disorder and they're starting to hyperventilate. The last thing that we really want to do as counselors is kind of encourage that
I was thinking.
deep hyperventilation, which is not going to be good for them. Therefore, interrupting their natural unhealthy process gives them a chance to get into a healthier space. And repeat those steps. Generally speaking, you would do it 5 to 10 times, 5 to 10 reps. However, it really does depend on a client. If someone is very worked up, you might want to do it a little bit longer. If someone's very unsure about the process as a whole and really doesn't trust counseling, you might want to do it a few less times, maybe like 3, so they're more likely to be willing to practice it. And deep breathing works best for people that are stressed, in panic, or depression. Does anyone have any ideas of why it might be useful in depression?
I guess help the person to concentrate in something else other than the problem.
Exactly that. Clients that are going through depression tend to think worst case scenario, where they're building all of these things that are just going wrong for them, nothing seems right, and this kind of allows them to take a step back, kind of removes that feeling of being so overwhelmed and allowing them to come through with a slightly altered mindset. Very good. Next we get to body scanning. For step 1, you have the client or yourself close your eyes and do several counts of just inhale and exhale. And this is just a cause awareness of your breath. and see where you're at and just kind of get into the mindset of the practice. Next, you visualize a glowing ball of light. And the purpose of this is it's going to move through your body, and wherever that light goes, you're going to focus your attention. So for example, start out in the top of your head. So you're thinking about this light that's sitting in your skull. What is it feeling? What is it experiencing? What are you noticing about that specific area? Perhaps you have a headache from wearing your ponytail too tight. Perhaps your eyes are hurting from not wearing your glasses. What are you feeling? Once you acknowledge the physical presence of any sensations or anything like that, you move the light down. Neck, shoulders, stomach, arms, and legs. You can close out with your feet to do a full body scan. As you ask yourself, what am I feeling and what do I notice about each one of these specific areas? Then you repeat steps 3 and 4, like we discussed, throughout the entire body. And this technique works best for somatic issues and also substance abuse and addiction. For example, when you're feeling like you're craving drugs or alcohol or something like that, what am I feeling physically in my body? If I feel something, say, in my stomach, well, what can I do as an alternative to drugs and alcohol that will alleviate that specific feeling? Give the client really a better, more healthy coping skill. Next, we have the 5 senses, which is a great grounding technique for bringing people into the present. To begin, you want to start with sight and verbally state 3 things you see in your immediate environment. For example, I see this timer, I see this Sharpie, I see her bottle of water. 3 things. You want to move through all of your senses, asking that question, what do I see? What do I hear? Now there's one that provides a little bit of a difficulty, right? Taste. Okay, 3 things that I'm tasting right now. To avoid having your clients licking the wallpaper or chewing on the pillowcase covers, what are some alternatives that we can introduce to have clients experience a taste sensation?
Water.
Yeah, things for them, like a bowl of, I don't know, candy
Yes.
or something.
Yes, exactly that. And then you can have them, select a piece of candy that they want, gum, mint, describe the texture, describe the taste, describe, how it feels in your mouth. All of those things that relate to taste in a way that's normal. Very good. Also, it's very common for clients to bring water into session. So, perfect. When you're drinking, what sensations are you feeling? Very good. And this works best for trauma and severe anxiety. It works well for trauma because when you have somebody that's relaying something that happened, whether traditionally it would be something like sexual assault or graphic images such as a wartime hero, it really pulls them from feeling pulled back into that situation where they can't escape and feeling all of the same emotions in a very scary and real way, and brings them into the present. You're in session with a counselor. It is safe to discuss these emotions. Nothing is going to physically harm you here. All right, so we're going to start off in little dyads. So Victoria and Christia, Craig and Alana, we're going to practice deep breathing for 1 minute. And what's going to happen is one of you is going to assume the role of a counselor. One of you is going to be the client. When you are the client, instead of just kind of passively skating by, you're going to be thinking about what is one recommendation for improvement that your counselor can do, and what is one thing that the counseling student did well. And after a while, you guys are going to switch roles and go through the same thing. Does anyone have any questions before we begin?
Do you want to be the counselor or this?
Sure. All right, let's get going.
Counselor?
Okay, go ahead.
Either one.
Susan or counselor.
Okay.
Just breathe in. Okay.
Instructing me.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
You are going to
Start
empty
breathing.
existing air out of your lungs.
You can turn to see it if you want to. So as a client, close your eyes, Christiana. As you do that, empty the breath out of your lungs that's there.
I thought you were just supposed to read into it. Okay. Empty the existing air. Inhale through 5 seconds.
You can count along with them. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. whatever step you're on and switch roles.
Okay.
I'm your counselor.
So we're gonna do.
Okay.
So
To begin, I'm gonna
focus
ask that you
on
empty your lungs
10
completely.
So
With
we're
every
gonna
ounce of
inhale for
breath.
5 seconds,
have
hold for
in you.
3, and then exhale for 5
Close your
seconds. Are
eyes.
you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's inhale.
Once that's complete, you're gonna go ahead and inhale deeper for 5 seconds.
And then hold for 3,
Good.
3,
And
exhale,
I'm gonna have you hold that breath for 3 seconds. Now exhale.
5, inhale,
Go ahead and repeat that. So take that one breath and then exhale. Hang out.
3, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good.
All right, perfect. Pause where you're at.
Right,
And
the
in
lung
your
space.
yes,
Tapped out at like
it
3.
is quite like mindfulness. It is a practice. It is something you definitely have to increase your lung capacity for, which is why we say you can start off with counts of 3 if that makes it easier. So in your groups, discuss some things that you think the counselor did well and some things that you think they could improve on.
I think you could have improved on your
I think you did very
instructions.
well.
I think they were. It was unclear at the beginning what
It
was
was
going
very
to happen.
to the point, and I understood what you were saying. I think
Thank you for counting.
Sure. That's helpful
and
feedback.
I was like,
I'm hearing a lot of actually really good feedback. And this is one of those things that as you practice it, you realize what works, what doesn't work, what you need to do that's extra. For example, both people mentioned, I liked that you told me beforehand exactly what this drill was going to consist of. And that creates an environment of safety and comfortability for your client. Okay, I know what to expect. I'm not, like Alana said, just going to be inhaling for 15 seconds, without any kind of,
Guidance.
okay, how long is this going to go on for?
and I expected her to just do it.
Exactly.
Go ahead, you can read it. I was like, oh, I have to tell you.
So that's great, yeah. So as you practice it, you become more confident and you realize what works best for you. Very good. All right, next up is body scanning. Obviously, we're not going to have, the full time that you would in session to be like from full head to toe. So if there's a specific area that your partner would like to focus on, say if they're having muscle soreness or something like that, you can go ahead and tell your counselor student that. Otherwise, again, whoever was the first counselor, you can get started with that and practice through.
Who was it? Me? You?
You
I
start.
think it was, okay.
We're gonna close your eyes. And do
So,
several counts of inhale.
what kind of body skills? What bring you here today? So we're gonna focus on one area.
Maybe my shoulders.
Alright, so we're gonna do this section with body scanning. So first, you're gonna close your eyes and do several counts. Inhale, exhale, like we practiced the last time. And now you're gonna visualize a glowing ball of light on your shoulders or the area that hurts. Then visualize the ball of light in the shoulders, calling your wrist to that area. And now, what do you feel or notice?
Hurts.
I think I feel like a,
Previously I had a headache.
I almost
so
like a
potentially
warmness
that's
or
why it's
something, like because you're trying to,
present.
like a ball of light because you're trying to visualize it there maybe.
Alright, so now you're gonna repeat.
All right, that's good. You can wrap up where you're at. Very good. All right, switch roles and run through it
Okay. So
in the opposite roles.
Okay, we're gonna start doing a little
Steve, we're
inhale,
gonna start with
exhale.
a little deep breathing.
Practice. So
Do
few
three counts of
inhales.
inhale and exhale.
2 counts. Exhale. 2 counts.
Inhale for 5.
And
Hold.
go ahead and are you feeling pain in any specific areas today?
Now we're going to visualize a ball of light
Just one of them.
in a certain area of the body
Your
that's
left hip.
causing
Go ahead and
pain
Take a
or
moment to
uncomfortable or
visualize a glowing ball of light in your left hip.
what do you feel?
Go ahead and take
Where
a
is this
second to
ball
think
of
about
light?
that.
Yes, and relax.
Imagine it
So
there.
imagine like a massage.
Okay.
What else
What do you
notice?
feel? What do you notice? Okay.
Like pain from your workout?
Is it warm? Is it light?
Yes, it does sweat. nice
Sharp pain of fire.
and glowing.
Okay.
All right, wrap up whatever step you're on. And again, I noticed a lot of similarities in what you said as the client. You felt that warmth, and that's really what's calling attention to that specific area. You feel that warmth, like Victoria said, in your shoulders, and what you weren't you thinking about was the entire rest of your body. You're able to be very mindful in a very specific way. Great. So what were some of the things that you think your counselor did well? And what kind of sort of things you think maybe they could use a little bit of improvement on?
Everything is very good and to the point.
Very methodical.
It's understood what you
You
wanted.
were detailed from the beginning. That's helpful.
The counting
Because the first one was not so
so
detailed.
we help them to breathe.
So that
Focus
was-
on where,
Yeah.
Right, you guys all bring up great points. The mindfulness, you really incorporated, I heard you say, just sit there for a minute and think about what you feel. Encouraging them to stay present when maybe, since it's something new and uncomfortable, they might want to fly through it. Very good. Excellent. Next we're on to the 5 senses, where you want to begin with sight and work through evaluating what can your client see, what can you touch, what can you hear. But there's obviously a lot of noises going on, so that one should not be hard. So go ahead and counselor number 1 can get started with that. When you guys are finished, you can switch on your own, and then we'll come together as a class when both people have acted as a counselor. You can just look up here, because this one shouldn't take that long.
breathing that you notice.
You,
You, the camera,
Camera. I see
definitely the camera,
pink
the
cell
beer,
phone.
and you.
And I see a white sweatshirt.
Yes.
well, I see. Oh,
I'm gonna
That's
go ahead
what
and
you
ask
already
you to do
see.
the same thing, beginning with sight. 3 things. Oh,
So you go through all 5 senses, and then you would switch. Good question.
doing the senses now.
Yeah, so I sight and then taste my gum, my water. I hear the classmates talking and airplanes.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so now I feel in a chair on my front. Feel?
Yeah.
Feel too?
Absolutely, feel it. Like that could be touch. Okay, I feel the material of my shirt. I feel the hardness of this wood. I feel the sensation of just sitting down. Good. Mhm. All right, excellent. Good job, everyone. So just as a note, as a counselor, you would want to run through all 5 steps with them and then kind of discuss how they feel afterwards instead of just going through one and asking them how they feel, going through, sight. Okay, how do you feel now? Okay, sound, how do you feel now? So run through all 5 senses so they feel completely connected in every area of their body with their present circumstances. We are now ready, having practiced these, to go through our case studies. We're going to start off with case study 1. Nicholas is a 57-year-old male who works in construction. He has come to counseling after a recent work injury, which occurred when he fell off a ladder and landed directly onto his back. While nothing was broken during his fall, he has had chronic pain ever since, which he reports has been taking over his life, causing him to neglect social events and avoid previously enjoyed hobbies. As you speak with him, you notice he evidences difficulty in concentration. What mindfulness practice would you incorporate into the session?
I would do body scanning for sure.
Body scanning? What are your reasonings for using body scanning, based on what we've learned today?
Well, you said that he hurt his back,
Mm-hmm.
so he's trying to avoid other people. I guess he feels uncomfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe doing this technique, it helps him to go back to the social life, maybe.
Exactly. One of the first steps in accepting a situation is the awareness of that situation, the awareness of pain. I feel pain. That may be a part of my life going forward from that, and learning how to accept that. So exactly, just calling attention to it, saying it's okay to feel this way, it's okay to acknowledge it. And it's okay to acknowledge the difficulty associated with it. Very good. For case study number 2, we have Allison, and she is a 27-year-old woman with a past history of sexual assault. As she relays the details of her experience being raped in college, you notice that she is becoming increasingly scared, starting to disassociate, shake, and cry. What mindfulness practice would you incorporate into the session?
Breathing,
Breathing? Does anyone else have any ideas?
calm her down.
Senses.
Yeah, I think you said senses before that helped them.
Craig,
Sorry.
what is your justification for using 5 senses?
Maybe just to reground her, to get her back in the moment in that room, because she's obviously drifting at that point.
Good. And Victoria, what about you?
I just thought the deep breathing to kind of calm her back down.
Yes, both are great and viable options. First, you might want to bring her back into reality, and then you can start to calm her down. So you can use them in tandem, which is an awesome point that you guys brought up. So both very solid. Now we have case study 3. Martha is a new mother who came to counseling to discuss how much pressure she feels in her new role. She expressed that even though she quit her job and works as a full-time stay-at-home mom, she has found herself constantly behind on daily chores and feeling inadequate. As she relates these feelings of being overwhelmed, her voice raises, her speech accelerates, and she begins talking more without a clear focus or direction. What mindfulness practice would you incorporate into the session?
Good breathing.
Any other suggestions?
Causes stress
Mm-hmm.
or depression.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have any ideas?
I don't think you can go wrong with any of them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think Chrissia hit it right kind of on the head. She may be feeling depressed. She's certainly feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And to just kind of give her that feeling, a deep breathing exercise could really help her out. Wonderful job. Wonderful. Now that you guys have really gotten a hang of these concrete ideas, let's do some more creative or abstract brainstorming. So for a solid minute, I'm going to have you guys just write down on your paper whatever comes into your mind. There are literally no wrong answers here, just to see what your mind brings up with the idea of mindfulness. Being mindful while talking about mindfulness, kind of, flaring up there. So for the next minute, think about what are the key concepts that you feel are necessary to promote mindfulness in sessions, and also how can you facilitate a deeper sense of mindfulness. You guys can use the pen and paper that are right there. And for a full minute, when you guys are ready, we will begin. Just write constantly whatever comes to your mind. Just don't stop writing.
Your mind of emotions, like quiet your room versus like a thing that softly vibrating, anything that comes to mind. You think about concentration.
All right, everyone finish up on the idea that they are currently working on. And you can stop. All right, now we're going to go around the room and everyone's going to tell which one you felt most confident about or which one you think you liked the best that you would like to share with the class. And Craig, we'll start with you.
I have past experience that could prove helpful to an environment. So maybe using a past experience to allow yourself to be more mindful in a situation. Be that personal experience or with a different client or.
That's a really great suggestion. Having somebody relay a past circumstance into the counseling session. That's a lot of using emotion-focused therapy, where you talk about something and you feel those same emotions that you felt back then at the time, but this time in a place where it's safe to discuss it and you can kind of pause, reflect, discuss things, answer for clarity, and continue. So excellent. That's one of the best ways that you can use mindfulness in counseling. What about you?
To facilitate a deeper sense of mindfulness, just creating a comfortable space and atmosphere. For the person.
And what do you think a comfortable space and atmosphere would look like?
Quiet, one-on-one, not just like a blank room.
Exactly. Colors, textures, comfortability of like pillows and blankets, all of that stuff creates this sense of stillness, like you said, quiet. You've removed all of the noise distractions so the client really can only think about their thoughts. Very good. Christina, what about you?
I started writing about being by myself, taking a deep breath, and thinking about my goals helped me just go back
Mm-hmm.
and forget about the situation. It will pass away.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that a lot every day, actually.
Good for you. Good for you. I think that's very important because as counselors, when you're sitting in front of somebody, they are going to pick up on your emotionality, your status. If you're coming into session, because, I mean, let's be honest, counselors don't immediately just get rid of all their problems as soon as you get that degree. If you come in, I'm stressed about this new mindfulness technique that I'm going to try, I have a million things to do today, your clients are going to read that. And it's going to relate negatively into their counseling experience. Maybe they don't feel comfortable really opening up to this person that they're kind of like, oh, it seems kind of like a mess. I don't know if I really can trust them with my innermost thoughts. Great. Victoria, how about you?
I thought being accountable for with your feelings, like it's okay to feel this way.
Exactly.
I'm feeling this and it's okay. Like
Exactly. So normalizing any kind of emotion
Right.
that's felt. How would you go about making someone feel it's normal to feel this way?
I guess just hearing them and listening, you know, telling them it's okay that they're feeling that
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. Maybe even calling attention to, have you ever seen anybody else get angry? You know, you're saying you shouldn't feel this way. Have you ever seen someone be angry? Of course, we're all going to say that, right? We've all seen everybody we know probably, that we know well, go through a wide array of emotions. Very good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I would say that during the course of this lesson, we have learned to implement mindfulness techniques during therapy sessions based on unique client needs by learning what those techniques are and being able to look at the here and now. Hey, someone's in front of you with a problem. How am I going to address that? Which you did in the case studies. Also to invent and modify newly existing mindfulness techniques to create a dynamic set of new counseling skills. And then perhaps you can go back to your office and change the scenery as you become more mindful about what it takes to help your clients advance in their mental health. So in conclusion, is there anything that really stuck out to you that you thought, okay, as a counselor, maybe this felt a little odd, or as a client, I could see the benefit in X, Y, and Z, or does anyone have any questions?
The ball of light was weird.
Was weird?
The ball of light was weird.
What about it felt
Just
weird?
the idea of it, just getting over the hump of that's weird.
Kind of that new age yoga-y
Sure.
stuff. How would you combat if someone's like, I don't want to do this, and you really felt like body scanning was essential for their treatment? How could you adjust that technique to eliminate the weird sense of it to create something more everyday?
You can relate to them and say, hey, I understand where you're coming
This is
from.
weird. Just humor me unless you try it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure, pushing them out of their comfortability, that's a huge part of being in counseling. Does anyone else have an idea of how you could adjust the technique for a client that may be a little bit resistant?
Maybe demonstrating how I do it
with
first.
them.
Do it with them. That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. Going back to what we were talking about with Victoria, it normalizes the situation. You know, okay, well, if this person's doing it, I guess I can do it too. Any other ideas? What about changing it? Okay, so maybe we don't, if you're not comfortable with it, we don't have to have that ball of light. So just picture, you know, you're having an out-of-body experience. You know what you look like from looking in the mirror. Picture your head. What do you feel? What do you see? Kind of eliminating that element that people may have a difficult time with, because I think, you know, you brought up a great point. There's a lot of people that are going to be like, this hippie yoga nonsense, it's not for me. So kind of changing that a little bit and creating something that is more relatable. Does anyone have any more questions? All right, this concludes our lesson for tonight. Have a great evening.
Did we